Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma shalli wa sallim wa barik ala sayidina maulana Muhammad. Al-Fatihi lima ughliq wal khatimi lima sabaq. Nasiril haqqi bil haqqi wal hadi ila siratikal mustaqim. Wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi wa miqdarihi al-azim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir, Rabbi tammim bil khair. Nawaitu ta'alluma wa ta'lim wa tadhakkura wa tadhkira wa nafa wal intifa wal ifada wal istifada wal hatha ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa du'a ila al-huda wa dalalata ala al-khair ibtigha'a wajhillahi mardati wa qurbi wa thawabi subhanahu wa ta'ala wa ila hadratin Nabi Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin arrahmanir rahim maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Today we are looking and we are continuing on the 22nd council, and we have covered last week. We are looking at how Imam Ghazali told his student there are 4 things that he should pursue, all right, and there's 4 things that they should avoid. And last week Imam Al-Ghazali mentioned to his student, all right, the first thing that the student should avoid is engaging in arguments, all right, engaging in arguments. And we went into a quite thorough discussion about why it is not praiseworthy to go into an argument. Why is it not praiseworthy to go into a debate? We talked about that at length. And he also mentioned, all right, as under the heading of avoiding arguments as the first thing you should avoid, about 4 kinds of people, all right? There are 4 kinds of people, all right, with sicknesses of ignorance that we will encounter in our lives. 3 we should avoid, and 1 that we should engage with. All right. And the first one we mentioned last week was about someone who likes to just debate for the sake of debating, right? They like to debate because of the fact that they don't like, they just want to engage you in a debate, and then they dislike the fact that they are defeated in a debate. So the purpose is to engage in a debate and to win the debate. Such people we should not waste our time in. And these people are very prevalent, especially in the social media context that we live in today. All right. So everyone, you look at the comment section, all right, so people like to engage. All right, they'll throw in the hadith and the Quran. Then this undermines the value of the Quran and hadith. The Quran and hadith, the purpose of the Quran and hadith is not to be thrown into a vain discussion. It's not meant to be thrown into a petty discussion. All right, it is supposed to be something that is uplifted. All right, to uplift the morality, to uplift the intellect, to uplift the state of the human society. It is not meant for the purpose of the nafs, of your desires, to be used as a tool to raise yourself at the expense of others, and also to use it as a tool for your ego. So that's a number 1 rule. So he says, avoid such people who like to engage in debates or arguments. The second group of people he asks us to debate, to avoid engaging with, are people, all right, with an ignorance of their realities. So these people are people who have learned religion, started learning religion, and assume therefore that whatever they have of religion is comprehensive, and it tallies with whatever knowledge, or with whatever knowledge that they have had, all right, with whatever knowledge that the scholars have established. Believe it or not, yesterday I was engaged with in a discussion, all right, with somebody who came to a parent came to me over the few last week, all right, a parent that is known to me, all right, because the son has apparently claimed to meet the Mahdi. So the son has claimed to meet the Mahdi all the way in Mumbai. So he's gone to travel to Mumbai and met the Mahdi. And these people claim that the Mahdi is already delivered. All right. So, and therefore the son is now into it and is trying to indoctrinate the whole family member. So the mother got me to actually engage with the son. All right. And I talked to the son, and I talked to this person who has met the Mahdi, and that's the thing. All right. So this person has just seen. All right. So he met somebody who talked to him about religion, and immediately he felt enlightened. All right. Being enlightened doesn't mean that it's the entire light. That's one of the mistakes we make. That you seeing light does not mean that you have seen the light. All right. You seeing a little bit of a ray doesn't mean that you have seen the sun. There's a mistake always made. You've seen a ray of light and you say that's the sun. That's not the sun. That is a manifestation of the sun. If you hear someone speak, it's always easy for you to be impressed. Oh, especially if you're, that's why people who are in ignorance are at the most vulnerable to misinformation. They are at the most exposed to deviant teachings. Why? Because they'll grapple anything. If you're in the dark, anyone that offers you light, you'll take it. That's the start of all horror movies, right? You are in the dark, you don't know where to go, a car drops by, and the car tells you, you want to go somewhere, and that's how the murder happens. And that's how your faith is murdered. That's how your faith is taken advantage of. When you actually are in the dark and you don't even know what is light. All right, so anything that is able to light to show your way out of the darkness, you assume that is the way. So that was what happened. So we engaged in about 1 hours of discussion. It wasn't alhamdulillah, it was not something that was difficult, all right, because it was, something that is not right, all right. It doesn't stand a chance when you are presented with, when you know what is truth, all right. So I managed to talk to the child. Whether he accepts it or not was not something that I was more engrossed with, all right. I just wanted to unearth whatever the thinking was, all right. So the point is that, knowledge, therefore, is that some people, they achieve knowledge and therefore they start to stop. You being able to speak and being eloquent is not a manifestation of how knowledgeable you are. In fact, our scholars are very particular about speaking out or speaking up. They only speak at the right moments. Right? One of my late teachers, he doesn't speak except in classes. So except out of classes, he just do zikrullah. So he says, if you have a religious question to ask me, you ask me inside the class. Apart from that, I want to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unless it's a matter that's really serious pertaining to your life, you can ask me. But in reality, he says that I will only speak in classes. They're very careful about what they say. Right? They're very guarded. But now we are loose cannons. We have to speak all the time. Everyone is speaking. Everyone has their own podcast. Everyone has their own influencer page. Everyone has their own followers. And this is going to be addressed later on. So Imam Ghazali says, avoid such people who, when they engage you, is from the ignorance of their self. All right. In fact, one of the scholars, all right, of Islam, all right, his name is Imam Al-Khalil bin Ahmad Al-Farahidi. He says people of four kinds. All right. Al-Imam Al-Khalil bin Ahmad Al-Farahidi says men are of four kinds. There are those who are cognizant, who are aware of their knowledge. All right. So he's knowledgeable and he's aware of his knowledge. This person is a scholar. This is like our teachers. They are knowledgeable and they know that. That's why they are teaching. He says, follow these people. There are people, he says, secondly, there are people who knows, all right, who is knowledgeable, but he is not aware that he's knowledgeable. So very humble people. They are knowledgeable, but when you tell them, hey, you need you to share something. No, I cannot. I don't know. They know. All right, they know, but very humble people, not fake humility, but seriously people who are not aware that they have that ability. So Imam Khalil bin Ahmad says, wake this person up, because the ummah needs these people. All right, so these people are those people who speak less. The third are people, all right, who does not know and is aware that he is not knowledgeable. So he's ignorant, but he is aware. But he's aware of the fact that actually I don't know a lot of things. These people, guide them. They come to you and say, I do not read Quran. Can you help me? All right. These people guide them because they are aware that they do not know. It's different from the first one. It's different from the second one. The second one is that he thinks that he knows when he actually doesn't know. And the fourth, all right. So the first person, all right. Sorry, I repeat again. The first person is someone who is knowledgeable. All right. He is knowledgeable and he knows that he's knowledgeable. Second is someone who is knowledgeable, but he doesn't know that he's knowledgeable. These are the humble people. The third person is someone who is not knowledgeable and he's aware that he's not knowledgeable. The fourth one is the one that Imam Khalil bin Ahmad Al-Farahidi says we should avoid. Who is the fourth one? The fourth one who is not knowledgeable but thinks he is knowledgeable. And this fourth category is what is entering into our society today. Is most prevalent in our society today. Everyone thinks they know something. Going beyond the Gaza conflict, there was the Syrian conflict that happened a few years back. Remember when there was a Syrian conflict? I ever met somebody All right, I remember somebody, he said with me, we were watching, he was watching the updates on the Syrian conflict involving the Russian troops, all right, when they were infiltrating into Syrian territory. And this is one man who sat in his apartment in Admiralty next to me, and he says this to me: I think they are employing the wrong tactics. Someone who sits in Admiralty, in his house in Admiralty, sits in his cozy chair and tells me, I think they're employing the wrong tactics. Do you know that there are many people who are resistant like this today? They speak as though they know things on the ground. And this is the danger. All right, you are not well read, you don't know anything. And those who are well read, I have friends who study in Syria, and they are very well aware of the situation in Syria. And they keep their counsel to themselves. They know that whatever is being shown, that is being portrayed, they know the absolute reality. All those streets that were being penetrated, that were infiltrated, they know those streets by hands. And they have not said anything about it because they know closer. And they know that it's not about wrong tactics. There's a lot of things that's in play, that's why they keep their counsel to themselves. But we who are not, who have never stepped into Syrian soil, we have never stepped into a speck of dust in Syrian territory, we are speaking, oh, this is wrong tactics. So they should have done this. They should have done this. It's to the point where we even question the scholars. This is what's happening today. All right. When we look at particular global conflicts that happen, people are forcing people to do things when they themselves are very ignorant about their own realities. And avoid such things. Therefore, in our realities today, get engaged in, first thing, if you take by that advice of Imam Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi, leave. All right. The Prophet says, Min husnil Islam il-mari tarkuhu ma la ya'ni, leave things which are not benefit. Take the benefit of established scholars. Follow the scholars and get into action in things that are worthy of getting action into. All right. We are looking elsewhere and looking at another part of the world where our action, all right, is very much limited to two things. What is our dua and our sending aid to them, all right, to make humanitarian aid to them. But while we are doing so, we overlook the fact that there are things before us that call for our immediate attention, which Allah mentions in the Quran. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Oh, you who believe, preserve yourself and your family members from hellfire. We have forgotten to preserve ourselves. So this is very important. As we are engaged in things elsewhere, do not overlook the fact that there are things here that calls for our attention and calls for our immediate action. All right. So we're going back to this book. So Imam Al-Ghazali, going back to this book, he says, avoid he who is ignorant of his ignorance. All right. And he likes to question the acts of scholars. And that's point number 2. All right. They says, you know, in my opinion, right, Shafi'i, all right, he has made a mistake in this. In my opinion, right, all right, they have given opinions in everything, and to the point whereby they even question the actions of the companions. I ever heard of a piece of someone who actually said, in our times, they says, you know, if I had my way, I wouldn't have the discussion at Banu Sa'id, at the house of Sa'ad bin Ubadah. What is this guy talking about? This young chap is talking about the fact that after the Prophet ﷺ died, there was a discussion between the people of Muhajir and Ansar on who should be chosen as the Khalifa. So this guy who lives in the 20th century is saying that if I had my way, I wouldn't go proceed the discussion first. Can you imagine the sickness of our mind? We are even saying the companions, if he had his way, he will tell the companions, don't do that. So this is our craziness today. That with the authority of Umar, Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, the authority of the people present in that meeting, Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Sayyidina Abu Bakr al-Jarrah, those people who exist in that council, the praiseworthy companions of the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr, whom the Prophet says that in his time, these are the two companions that are allowed to give fatwa in the Prophet's time. In the Prophet's time, Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar were given the right to give fatwa in the Prophet's time. And we today are saying that, if I had my way, I wouldn't have a discussion about who to be the Khalifa at that point of time. This is madness. This is madness. This is when we come to a time of society whereby you start to think too highly of yourself. And thinking too highly of yourself and negating the righteous is the act of who? It's the act of the devil. How was the devil thrown away from earth? Well, I was thrown away from paradise? Because he says, Ana khairu minhu. I am better than Adam. I'm better than him. And that is how the devil plants his seeds, through intellect. Which is why Allah tells Iblis, usjudu, prostrate before Adam. Why? To teach you humility. The only cure for your intellectual wealth is humility. If you have intellect, but you have no humility, you're going to tread the path of the devil. Which is why we're learning this book, Ayyuhal Walad. Why is he trying to tell his student? His student is knowledgeable. He says, watch your heart. Watch your heart. Because usually when the intellect increases, the heart decreases. The only way forward is for the heart and the intellect to work hand in hand, not at the expense of the other. Someone with excessive intellect, he will compromise his compassion. He will compromise his humility. Someone with excessive compassion, sometimes they will compromise the ability to make a proper judgment and be fair. This is something that we need to understand. Right? Going back to this. Now, the third point, he says, who you should avoid. He who is seeking guidance. This is interesting. Category number 3 is interesting category. He who is seeking guidance and he does not understand the speech of the great scholars. He lays to the defects of his own understanding. So this person, when he sits in a class, he doesn't understand anything. Just sits in a class and he doesn't understand anything. All right. His questioning is in order to seek benefit, but he is slow-witted. So this person, his intention is pure. I want to learn. I want to know about religion. I want to know. But he's slow. So look at the word he uses here. Slow-witted. Not quick-witted. Slow. Lambat-lambat. Nah, the Malay word, last time we call lembab-lembab. Lembab. Okay. And cannot arrive at the truth of things. Means that he cannot understand. Okay. Again, you must not attempt to answer him. Now, number 3 is interesting. You don't engage that person, but it's not like number 1 and 2. Number 2, 1 and 2, you avoid. So number 1 and number 2, you avoid. Don't layan. Don't give that person audience. All right. But number 3, you do not answer his questions, but you address it in another way. This is different. So 3 is special. It means you avoid his questions. Why? Avoid answering his question. Avoid answering his questions. Why? He will not understand. When he asks a question about something, it is because the foundations to that question is not understood yet. Means this person is only looking high up. Right? He's asking about something that is high, that he doesn't understand, when he actually needs to understand the basics first to understand that subsequently. For example, Quranic recitation. This person, all right, he doesn't understand the sciences of Qira'at. All right, he doesn't understand the science of Qira'at. He is not acquainted with the Quran. So he sits, all right, he holds the Quran, Hafiz, and then he sits in a gathering, and the Qari in front, the guest Qari says, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. All right. And then he asks you, why is he reading like that? You don't attempt to explain to him the school of Warash. No. All right. You have to go right down to the basics because this person has zero exposure to the Quran. So he sees if he found a panel of Qaris. One Qari recites this. He's looking at the Quran. First one says, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Second one, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And he's looking, it's the Quran. Why is he looking at different things? Why is it different? If you try to attempt to explain to him, he'll get frustrated. Because he cannot comprehend the recitation. You have to explain to him the basis of Quranic recitation first. Because he, in the first place, is not acquainted with even one way of reciting the Quran. Start with the basics. This person have no basics. He's sitting inside there. He's being blurred. What is this? What is this? All right. That's why it's important for us, even as we recommend classes to people. All right. Do not recommend, oh, you go to this class. Yes, it's good for you because you understand. But you look at this person, he won't be able to understand. Go to the basics, find the class. That's why it's important. When scholars write books and when teachers teach, they ensure that there's level to text. In the book of Aqidah, there are different levels of books of Aqidah. You cannot jump straight up. In the books of Hadith, there are different levels of Hadith. Some people read Sahih Bukhari. Sahih Bukhari is for scholars. For students, for us, public, Adabul Mufrad of Imam Bukhari. You don't just jump straight up. So people nowadays say, oh, just take this thing. No. This is Islam is very particular about academia. It's particular about levels of learning. All right. So for the basic of Aqidah, what do we start with? Aqidatul Awam. That's why when we started with Syekh Ahmad Sa'ad. What's the first book? What's the first thing we did? Aqidatul Awam. We don't start with all that. With all the other books, the most basics, and we are struggling already. If I was to ask myself and brother Irwan now, what can we recall? We can only recall the Qasida. Abda'u bismillahirrahmani. That's all we can remember, the Qasida. And that's good enough. Tafsilu khamsatin wa ishrina lazin kula mukalafin wa haki waqtanim. All these things you can remember. But then the meanings, no. But there are levels, therefore. All right. So even when I choose a text, all right, it's a text that is painted to the public. We cannot take a big text. If I want to teach fiqh, Umdatus Salik, no, I can't teach a big text like that. Even I will not be able to present it. So it's not as easy as it is. So when you see someone asking a question, so in here he says, again, you must not attempt to answer him, as the Messenger of Allah said. We, the prophets, have been commanded that we speak to people according to their level of understanding. If you're going to talk to them, lower the level. Go back to the basics. If you're going to recommend people, don't recommend based on your liking, but recommend it based on your understanding where will be good for this person. You want this guy, oh, this one, this is slow lah. Okay, I think go for this one, this kind of class, this kind of content he needs. Don't bring that person there just because you are good with it. Then you're being selfish. Someone or your friend, he can't take spicy food. Then you take him to Tekka Market and where all the biryani. You will enjoy the biryani. He's going to suffer. All right? So you have to understand that. So category number 3 person is someone whom we should avoid answering his doubts, but we should engage him in the foundations of knowledge. But category 1 and 2, totally avoid. Don't argue with them. All right? Because he's going to burn you. All right? Because these people do not accept defeat. You can accept defeat because the praiseworthy way in engaging is not to win in the first place. It's to seek truth. But a person who is not eager to seek truth, but to seek victory, will not abide by the rules that way. All right? Okay? I learned what, and you should, in my conversation with that boy yesterday, the guy who claimed to see the Mahdi, I applied one of the prophetic methods in a conversation, and it worked well. This boy, this young chap, when he was speaking to me, I didn't interrupt him even once. He spoke for a good 30 minutes, all the way. All right, he spoke to me. I didn't interrupt even once. I just listened. When he's done, and it was my turn to speak. And every time he gets very worked up because I probe at certain of the weak points that he made. He gets very worked up. He wants to interject me. I says, I didn't interject you last time. I listened all the way till the end. You have to listen to me all the way till the end and hold your audience. So that, all right. So you have to learn to listen to people first, and that goes in our household as well. In an argument, always hold our horses. All right, horses, cows, everything hold. All right. Now, 4. The one that is curable, the disease is curable, the one that we should address is that of the intelligent seeker of guidance who is not overcome with envy, anger, or the love of lust, prestige, and wealth. Moreover, he seeks a straight path, and his questions and objections do not arise from envy, aberrant argumentation, or testing the sheikh. His sickness is curable and is permitted to attempt to answer him rather than it is a must. You see this kind of people amongst the Bedouins in the Prophet's time. Yes, you say they are lack of adab. Oh, no adab. But you look here. There's no lack of adab. The adab is not a, adab here is not a fundamental in this. So a person can have no adab because that's the purpose. He doesn't know what is adab in the first place. That's why he's asking genuinely. So we cannot penalize someone. No, look at the prophets. When someone asks the prophet, when the Bedouin asks, all right, the prophets all hold their horses. They don't immediately jump. Some occasionally they get angry. But when the Bedouin asks, the prophet didn't address the adab first. The prophet addressed the questions first. So if the person is genuine, he wants to be better, then let's do a compilation of Bedouin hadith. The Bedouin who interjected the prophet in his mid of his khutbah. He's giving a sermon, Bedouin stood up. Mata sa'a. When is the day of judgment? How blatant can that be? The prophet is giving a sermon about the day of judgment. This guy stood up and says, when is the day of judgment? The prophet didn't say, ask with adab. Ask the next time. No, the prophet addressed that immediately. He addressed it in immediacy. There was a Bedouin who came to the Prophet ﷺ and says, are you Muhammad? Are you the guy who sent? Are you the one who claimed to be a messenger? You who sent people to my village and asked us to embrace Islam? Are you this one? Are you this? Are you this? And the Prophet answered. Why? He's genuine. So when someone comes in a majlis, you do not judge them first by virtue of their demeanor. And we see our scholars. There was, pardon me, there were some occasions in Singapore itself when people came to see our teacher, Syekh Ahmad Al-Azhari. I remember last year. He came, and there was one young chap. He brought his girlfriend to see the Sheikh. Brings the girlfriend, and the girlfriend was, pardon me, was in the mosque. The girlfriend was very scantily clad. So I was worried. I don't know why, because it's because of my lack of knowledge. I felt very, mashallah. Is this right? That was my question. Brought the girlfriend to see Sheikh, right? To the after our class, brought to see Sheikh. Brought to see Sheikh. And I saw how our teacher, he dealt graciously with her, engaged her, maintain eye contact with her, talked to her, maintain eye contact with the boyfriend, and answered their questions. That's wonderful. But we already self-censored. Astaghfirullah. And we already said, oh, mashallah, it's not right. No. People came to the Prophet, I want to fornicate. I want to fornicate. How blatant can that be? Ya Rasulullah, I want to fornicate. It's as that. And that is the purpose of scholars. Scholars are supposed to be presented with these realities so that people are guided. All right. So when they come, is in a state of come, in the words of Nirvana, come as you are. They come as they are. Because they do not know in what state they are supposed to come in. So that's why they just come and they hope to be guided from there on. But we misunderstand. We set a lot of preconditions for people to come. And then by then, it has diluted their willpower to seek. You must do this, you must this, protocol. And then by the time they say, oh, so difficult to see. But in the past, that young man, he came to the Prophet, just came, Ya Rasulullah. This. A man came, Ya Rasulullah. I have sex with my wife in Ramadan. How straightforward can that be? How honest can that be? Rasulullah has sex with my wife in Ramadan. There was another occasion, Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu, he talks about sexual intercourse to the Prophet, clarifying the nature of sexual intercourse. Clarifying. I came to my wife from behind. I came to my wife from behind. And the Prophet answered it straightforwardly. If coming from the direction of, we come from behind in terms of direction, but it is penetrated from the front, it's permissible. What is not permissible is to do an anal penetration in Islam. As straightforward as that. As straightforward as that. Why? Because you look at the genuinity of the question. It's not out of mockery. It is not to test. I want to see this guy, whether he knows this. That was the way of the mushrikins in Makkah last time. They were the way of the munafiqus. They want to test the Prophet. They want to test whether the Prophet is speaking the truth. They want to see whether it's the real Prophet. All right, the Jews in Medina last time, they want to see if this is the real Prophet that was sent inside their book. They tested the Prophet. But the Prophet, when people are genuine about it, he answers it. He deals with it. And this is a lesson for us. When people come to us in whatever state, take it first. Take it first. But identify. If you see that from this person asking that, this person is genuinely wanting to know, despite their outlook, despite their demeanor, take it. But if someone is asking, they might have a good demeanor. You know, some people, they look very scholarly. They look good. But when they come to you, they are testing you. They want to get in a debate. You know that it's not getting anywhere. This person actually doesn't want to be a better person. He just wants to question and probe and undermine. Then leave that person. Someone can look at the most unlikely to be asking questions about religion. They come to you, I want to ask you about this. Yeah? All right. I ever had someone who went for a sex change. All right. Originally, he was the person was originally female and went for a sex change to become male. Came to my house and wanted to have a discussion with me. I was open to that because generally she was generally seeking answers from me, and I sat with her and I went through it with her. All right, that was that. So you must be open to actually accept. That was most money for people to come to you and they want to ask you, let them. Right? You must be accessible, but you must also there's a problem with us today. We're accessible to the wrong people. People want to talk about religion and engage with us for the next 2-3 hours, debating and debating and debating with no outcome for themselves and for ourselves. We wasted our time, we boosted their ego. But people want to know about the religion because they really want to become better. We don't have time for them. This is our problem. People really want to know religion. They have tattoos, they have piercings, they have all the things that might look outwardly wrong with a person, and they want to religion. We start to not pay attention to them. Someone comes and says, well, let's discuss about this hadith, brother. Let's talk about this hadith at the end of times. Let's see about this. Let's have a muzakara. Muzakara. At the end of the day, what's the conclusion? There's no conclusion. You argue, you debate, and you waste your time. And that person comes out with a big ego than he had before he met you. But this person who has no ego, and he wants to change, you know anything about it? So this is important for us to understand this. Now, let's look at the second thing. So, his sickness is curable and it's permitted to attempt to answer him rather than it is a must. All right? Rather it is a must. So it's a must. When this person has a question, answer him. All right? The second thing is to avoid. To avoid. So the first thing to avoid is arguments in general. Second is to avoid. That's why even in sneak preview to next year, all right? Even in a household, avoid arguments. You can spark an argument, but don't prolong it. Argument. No. And always it gets prolonged. All right. There's always someone who needs to be able to be the one that holds it. All right. Arguments are prolonged because no one wants to step down. Lower it. All right. One wants to ventilate. Cannot be both ventilating. Cannot be Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. Someone's going to bite someone's ear after that. All right. It has to be a process whereby one ventilates and one can take the blows. All right. So one has to be George Foreman. The other one has to be Muhammad Ali. Just stay at the rope. All right. Rope. All right. So just take the blows. All right. So it has to be like that. Okay. Dia masuk boxing pula ni. The second thing. All right. The second thing is to avoid. Is to guard against. Look at this. This is wonderful. The second thing is to avoid, to guard against and shun becoming a preacher and warner. Imam Ghazali puts it there. Is to shun becoming a preacher and a warner. Since its harm is much. That shouldn't be your main intention. I want to be this. I want to have the influence. I want to reach. No. Unless, look at it, the caveat here, unless you practice what you preach first and then preach it to the people. The condition is that if you want to teach someone something, you have to practice it first. So that there is consistency in your action. Which is why Allah says in the Quran, Ku anfusakum, protect yourself and your family members. You can't be telling your family members to pray 5 times a day when you have not started. So you have to be the one that acts upon it first. You have to be the one that does it first. You have to be the one that tells yourself first. Because the most difficult ego to address is your own. That's why the highest level of spiritual remedy is reflection. Self-reflection is strong. All right? Muhasabah. Why? Because once you do that, you will act when you are brave enough to tell yourself that you are weak, you are incapable, that you have weaknesses, then can you become a better person. Because we all will reach a stage of our life whereby no one can advise us. At some stage of our life, there are people who can advise us. Sometimes of our life, we have our parents. But once we move out and we move into our household, who can tell us off? All right? You can have, that's why you need to have a teacher at all times of your life. But even sometimes a teacher cannot reach you because we are a different person in front of our teachers and different person behind them. And every day, who can tell us this? There are some people who are so gentle in front of their teachers. But once they go home, they become a thug. They become a dictator. They become draconian towards their own family members. Oh, I've seen so many people like that. When they're before their teachers, they bend their head slowly. All right, they're very respectful and gentle and all loving. And when they go home, they become the greatest terror the people in the household see. So who can tell you off like that? And you have to learn to tell off yourself. You have to know. That's why the greatest to even in a household, in a marriage, all right, what's the greatest thing above all things is to look within yourself. If things go awry, look into ourselves and see how we can get out from there. But we are looking elsewhere nowadays, all right, especially social media. So unless you practice what you preach first and then preach it to the people. So there is that. So never make your first intention to teach, to preach. That's why teachers, all right, in Islam, in religion, right, the teachers, the scholars, they are given permission to teach, and it's not because they want to teach. Right? Imam Ash-Shafi'i was given the permission by Imam Malik to teach, to give fatwa. You need someone to tell you that you can teach. You cannot be self-proclaimed. I want. It's a calling. It's a calling. No. All right. You have to have someone to give you permission to teach. When I say permission to teach, it's not just by virtue of the certification that you have, by virtue of the fact that you are spiritually ready to teach, you're ethically ready to teach. Your teacher feels that you are at a stage where you can teach, that you should deliver a proper message based on his observation of you. All right. So it's not that I just want to teach. So nowadays, people just take up the mantle of delivering and they just don't deliver under the name of pretext of da'wah. And Al-Habib Umar bin Hafiz cautions against this. He says, be cognizant, be aware, and be discerning about the fact whether you are calling people towards Allah or calling people towards you at Allah's expense. Sometimes you're calling people to you seem to be calling people to Allah, but you seem to be calling people more towards you. You get the followers, you get the attention, you get the glam, you get the popularity. And how do you know that? If you call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you know the difference? If you are genuinely calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah says in the Quran, Innama yakhshallahi min ibadihi al-ulama. The people who are most fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the scholars. So when they call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they become more fearful. They become more responsible. They become better people. Out of their fear. All right? That they might make a mistake. They might err. They might be hypocrites. So they are very careful when they call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at your heart after you call someone to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you become proud of having people and touch of people walking around you, then you have not have the right intention. A companion by the name of Sayyidina Abdurrahman bin Auf, he is the richest, one of the richest people in Madinah to Munawwarah. All right? In the same cap as Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan, in the same cap as Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Real thief. But when he walks with his workers, they cannot recognize who is Abdurrahman bin Auf and who are his workers. They look similar. Because humility was the standard ethic of the companions at the point of time. Al-Imam Ibn Ata'illah As-Sakandari says in Al-Hikam, he says, Idfin wujudaka fil ardil khumul. Bury yourself in the lowest, in the lowness of the earth. Bury yourself in the lowness of the earth. Be humble. Because it's from the depth of the soil that the best trees grow. So be humble. Right? Be humble. Preach to yourself, and when you have preached to yourself, then preach to others, or otherwise be ashamed before your Lord. Sheikh Sa'id Ramadan Al-Buti captures this moment. He says, Sheikh Sa'id Al-Buti, our Syrian scholar, a blessed Syrian scholar, he says that he is mindful of people kissing his hands. He doesn't like people, Sheikh Sa'id Al-Buti, he doesn't like people kissing. Why? Because Allah knows who I am. This servant of mine letting people kiss his hands, well, he is doing this behind their backs. So be aware of yourself. Someone who wants to call to people has to be most aware of his inadequacies. That's why the scholars of the past, Imam Malik in particular, when someone asks him a question, he is more eager to say, I do not know. All right? He is eager to say, I do not know. Even Shaykh Ahmad Al-Azhari says in one of his public lectures, he says that one of the signals of the end of times is people claiming to know. While the way of the people of the past is that I do not know. Now he said, I know. Anania. I know everything. It's evolving around my ability. In the past, Wallahu a'lam. In the past, even when we end classes last time, in traditional class setting, right, which I sometimes practice, how do you know the class is ending? The word that everyone is listening, when you sit in the class, the word everyone is, Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab, and Allah knows best. Then why is the end of class? Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. Oh, ending. But we look pious in front of the teacher. Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. Means our heart, yes, it's the end of Aqidah class. And I don't understand one single thing. Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. That was the norm last time. Humility from the start till the end. In classes last time, why are religious classes last time so blessed? It starts with humility. How? They will always start with Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah. Nahmaduhu, and we praise Him. All right. And we seek his help. وَنَسْتَغْفِرُ, and we seek forgiveness. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شُرُورِ أَنفُسِنَا, and we seek protection from the inadequacies of ourselves. Those our scholars that will start their classes reciting that. And they will make dua. رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي. They ask for guidance in their hearts and for their tongue to be eloquent. They ask Allah from the start. And then when they end, Wallahu a'lam bisawab. From the start till the end is humility. All right? They start like that. We don't do this nowadays. All right? We don't do this nowadays. MashaAllah. All right? So, and these are the details that that is missing, all right, in our tradition, and we need to resuscitate it. All right? So, if you are entrusted, so if, okay, for example, okay, Ustaz, let's say if you're okay, Ustaz, but I believe that all of us, okay, the Prophet says, Balighu anni walau ayah. All of us have responsibility to preach. It's fine. So all of us, in fact, Brother Irwan, all right, he does da'wah. He calls. He's a preacher. Wow, through his works. And that's preaching as well. That's his work, right? Okay, that's his preaching. All of us are preaching. When we make a post on IG, okay, we are delivering. We are preaching. Fine. So remember the precondition just now. He says, Imam Ghazali says, if you're going to say something on IG, for example, all right, please do this. Make sure that you have actually practiced it first. First condition. So Brother Irwan, he do a poster, Hizbul Bahar, he must have recited it first. So whatever you're gonna do, make sure that you're appreciative of it first. You practice it first. Now, the next thing he says, if you are entrusted with these tasks, avoid two characteristics. If you're going to call people to goodness, avoid two things. Imam Ghazali says. All right. Beware of artificiality in speech, in explanations and allusions and vehement cries and versification and poetry. When you speak, all right, beware. Do not make it a preoccupation. Granted, our teachers, by virtue of their knowledge, when they speak, is poetic, is poetry in motion. When they speak, it's beautiful. It's not what they seek to do. What he's saying here is that you purposely put that inside. Why? So that it becomes beautiful. So it compromises the genuinity of your message. It is not similar from someone who is genuinely, when they speak, they are beautiful when they speak because of their knowledge. If you heard our scholar, Shaykh Ahmad Sa'ad, when he speaks, when you hear Habib Umar when he speaks, it's poetry in motion. It's poetry. Or Shaykh Hamza Yusuf when he speaks, oh, wonderful. But they don't try hard to make it wonderful. It is wonderful because of their eloquence, because it's what Allah gives them. It comes over time. But we cannot be purposely, I'm going to say this to impress. I'm going to put this Quran, this hadith. I'm going to say this. I'm going to do this rhetoric. I'm going to put my hand out like that. You don't. When you speak, you don't seek to have pretensions. He says, Allah, because Allah the Exalted hates pretension. All right, hates pretension. And the person pretentious beyond bounds gives evidence of inner confusion and a heedless heart. Be real. Be natural. Mostly people when I speak English, it's this accent. I don't speak in an accent, and this is how I speak. For 15 years, when I teach in a college, in my college, in a college, all right, which is supposedly Anglo, but I speak like this. But some people I know who speak normally like this, when they speak to people, they turn into British accent. Why so? Why do you have to? Just be yourself. You look like you're chewing grass when you're speaking in accent that doesn't belong to you. Just be natural about things. Articulation has got nothing to do with accent. The point is articulation. Articulate well. Accent is another thing altogether. All right, as long as there's clarity in your message. Be careful about pretensions. All right. Our Imam, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jailani, and this is a story that's very popular. If you read his Manaqib, right? If you read his story, there's always Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jailani. He has strong people flock to listen to his speech. And he has a son. And his son says that father is scholarly, yes. All right. But I don't understand. I can do better. The son says, I can do better than my father. To the son, it's normal. And it's normal in a family, right? For your own family members to actually say normal. Why? Because they see you every day. It's like when I teach now, my son is not impressed. I've seen it every day. I see how he rollerboard in the hall. He snores, everything. And now he's saying this is not, it's normal. All right. That's why your family members are either your greatest fans or your greatest hindrance. All right. So his son was like, okay, my father, one day I hope that if I get a chance to speak, I'll do better than my father. His son says that. So one in the majlis, his father gives him the floor. His father gives him the floor. And so he speaks. Hadith, Quran, interwoven, what the best of language, highest order of language. People appreciate it. But he sensed that he doesn't have the kind of response that his father, that they give to his father. So he says, why? It's like, why? All right. And then his father, then the Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jalani took the stage, took over, and he said, one night, a cat came into the kitchen and took away the fish. And the whole hall went into hysteria. Some broke down, some wept uncontrollably, some cried, and his son was bewildered. What's so wonderful about a cat coming into? Why does he have such an effect? He says, because it touches the heart. You were trying to touch their eyes. You are trying to touch their heart. You're trying to touch their eyes. You're trying to touch their hearing. You're trying to touch their sight. But when you try to touch people's heart, so people interpreted that what? If they say that if a fish is like your deeds that you have worked so hard for to catch that fish, to cook it, to prepare it, and then the cat is like what? The devil. The cat is like what? Your desires. One time you succumb to the devil. One time you succumb to desires, all is gone. The fish is gone. It's left to the bones. They interpret it as that. Or they talk about life. You can have a good life, but it can just go away just like that. So there were multiple interpretations, but most importantly, it touches the heart. So the purpose of speech is to touch the heart. The purpose of the speech, so and it's a genuine touching of the heart. And how do you work that? People always said, oh, I have to do this. I have to do special effects. No, special effects have a very limited effect on the heart. That's why be careful sometimes. So some of us, when we watch a video, right, a religious video, then we cry. I want to ask, are you crying because of the content or because of the background music? Sometimes it's background music. Be careful. The background music is Caravansari, Kitaro. Oh, because that Caravansari has an effect on the heart because it is written for the heart. So the effect is the Caravansari. It's the music that touches your heart, not the message. Be careful. You want to know your true message, if it touches your heart, do it without audio. That's why when the amazing state of a person is when he can take out the Quran and recite it and he cries. That's the ultimate state. You hear a song, you hear a nasheed, it can be the melody because the melody is always very melancholic. It's always melancholic. All right, the qasida. All right, sometimes you listen to qasida. It's melancholic, so it appeals, it tugs at the heart. Sometimes the voice of the person. Now, what about your own voice? Can your own voice bring you to tears? I mean, of course, during karaoke sessions, so a lot of people's voices bring me to tears. All right, because it's so broken. But the fact is that can you, in the middle of the night, when you pray for Allah, in your own voice, in your own tone, bring yourself to tears? When you whisper before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can you bring yourself to tears? Can you feel that beauty without any other intercessions? You got no audio, nothing. No, some people do that. They introduce this thing. I won't say what it is. All right, when you do a session of zikr, there's a background music. Someone has a booming voice on the mic. It's supposed to trigger things. You don't do that. Because the thing about trigger effects is that once the trigger is gone, then it goes back to the state, goes back to the original. You crave for such things. Because if you do that in a mosque, you can't go home and set up a sound system and have booming voices all over. Let's be practical about it. You know, when I went to Tarim in 2019, I visited the grave of a scholar called Imam Muhammad bin Ahmad Jamalul Lail. Right, Imam Muhammad bin Ahmad Jamalul Lail. This person, right? This person, he has this. Allah grants him this karama that when he recites the Quran, by virtue of reciting the Quran, his tears, his thirst is quenched. He becomes filled, right? He becomes satiated. He becomes filled by reciting the Quran. It's like when we are hungry, we eat, right? It's the same effect. When he reads the Quran, he becomes full. He gets that, and that's why some narration says that when he recites the Quran, he feels the sweetness of honey in his tongue by reciting it. We always say the sweetness of iman, but we don't know what it is. He feels it, literally. And so, Imam Ahmad bin Muhammad Jamalul Lail, all right, when in Ramadan, he won't recite the Quran that day. Why? Because I will not know how it is like to fast. Because when I read the Quran, I become full. My thirst is quenched when I recite the Quran. So I won't fast. Because why? If not, I won't feel what it's like to fast. But only recite the Quran at night. And when he leaves his place of worship, all right, people always find a lot of dates. Only date a little dates, 1 date, 2 dates. Why? When he breaks his fast, a date is enough. Why? He's quenched and he's filled by the Quran throughout the night. It's our opposite, right? 1 date is never enough. 1 date is a starter. All right, 1 date is a starter. All right, we have our iftar, post iftar, pre-traweh, post traweh, pre-witir, pre-qiyamul lail, pre-sahur meal. In one night we have 5 meals. In one day we have 3 meals. Out of Ramadan, in one night we have 6 meals. And we ask ourselves, why is it that after Ramadan my body is like this? Because you fasted in the day, but you didn't fast at night. All right, but this is Imam Muhammad bin Ahmad Jalal. All the stories that I went to Tarim, his was the one that really caught me, because the Quran, for you to be able to reach that level. All right. Okay. So the way to get to that is actually guarding our egos. All right. So the meaning of tazkir, all right, he says beware of artificiality. All right. The meaning of tazkir is that the servant should remember the fire of hereafter and his own shortcomings in the service of the Creator. It's going to be a long paragraph here. All right, we'll talk about that. We'll stop here. All right, then we'll continue it next week, inshallah. All right, so remember our last lesson for the month, for this year, the last lesson will only take place on the 17th. All right, 17th. All right, 17th is the last lesson. All right, brother, correct? 17th means 2 weeks from now. So next week and then 17th. Right, so 17th is the last lesson. Then after that we close. So I really hope to finish this book by the 17th. All right, but the thing about Imam Ghazali's book, that's why this book is small, but it is really a lot of weight in it. All right, the works of Imam, the book, that's a scholar's work, right? That's he talks about a scholar. One line fills you so much. All right, Allahu a'lam bisawab. So we stop here. Wassallallahu ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you. Where are you guys at? Are you guys in Gambia?
Sorry, Ustaz.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the class. Bye.
Thank you. You guys are in Malaysia, is it? Oh, okay. Mashallah. Is there a Russian listener next to you? Okay, see you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Ustaz.
Thank you.